¿Dónde estamos, Camilo? Uy. Camilo.
Señor,
Hey, Camilo.
¿cómo estás?
Bien, ¿y tú?
Bien, bien.
Está bueno. Aquí viendo un producto nuevo que estoy probando.
¿De qué?
Es otro simulador de PMP, del examen.
¿Como otro quiz thing or something?
Ajá. That I'm taking a look at. It doesn't look that bad, but uh,
Give me 1 second, señor.
sure.
Señor.
Hello.
Yes.
All right. So, just looking at that thing, it's not bad. I mean, I might give it a shot. Doesn't doesn't really look that bad. It's a little bit different than the other one, but it could be an option. Mm, so we what was do you remember the last process that we covered?
It was after procurement. It was stakeholder. Mm-hmm. Was it stakeholder management?
Management stakeholder. We do that? No.
Yeah.
Oh, we did a management stakeholder.
Yeah, that was short.
Okay. So we have to do monitoring and controlling and then closing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We are almost there. So monitor and controlling, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So we are done with executing. Now we have monitor and controlling only. 4.4.
What page?
That is page. Mm, 86. Okay. So monitor and control project work, that's where we track, review, and report the progress to make sure that we're covering, excuse me, the objectives that we had defined for the project, right? So you want to understand, this is where you're going to allow the stakeholders to understand what is the current state, what are the steps taken, and what is the forecast for the budget, the schedule, the timeline, and whatnot. So basically, you make sure that things are being done, and then you provide, you know, information on all of that. So this is where you're going to collect information. You're going to measure it. You're going to make sure you're going to even evaluate trends that you have for the project. And this is going to be a good indicator of the health of the project. So that's basically what you're doing. And when it comes to controlling, this is where you determine whether you need corrective or preventive actions. So you want to have this is where you compare actuals versus planned value, where you might also identify new risks, and you make sure that you track them, analyze them, and make sure that they're identified and reported.
How hard is that? No, for real.
So
I wouldn't put them on the bed, but
this is what gives you information for your status reporting. It's where you get that information from, and this is where you implement any changes, approve changes as they happen. So this is where all of that happens.
So does every step has approved changes if needed?
This is where you get information for those. This is where you gather information for any changes, and if they happen, and if you did it before, then this is where you monitor that the changes. If there were some changes that were approved and applied, this is where you monitor the result of that process. So that's basically what you do here. So when they happen, you monitor the progress of that, the implementation of that change. So you see whether it worked or not. So it's kind of what you do here. So the inputs that we have for this process is, the first one is a project management plan. The overall approach to the project, the umbrella that covers all of the different knowledge areas. Then we have the schedule forecast. This is going to be important because this is comparing your actuals versus your plan versus your actuals versus your plan regarding the schedule, and then
your versus your baseline, basically.
Yes, but remember that the baseline is a snapshot that you take, in this case of the schedule, at that particular moment. So you're taking a snapshot. It's like a picture that you're taking at that particular moment. But you also have planned values. Like, you know that the planned value to complete the planned value in this case is regarding to dates. So you're saying that it's going to take you, I don't know, 40 days to complete a task, or if you're talking about the project, it's going to take you 40 days to complete the overall project. So then that's your planned value, right? And then you measure your actuals. Then you start measuring your progress on that task. And then you start measuring, I don't know, at day 20, you're supposed to be, day 20, you should be around 50% of the completion of the project, right? So you start measuring, but you might be, in reality, you might be for X, Y, or Z, you might be at 40% or at 30%. So then you have to evaluate why. That's comparing your actual versus your plan. But the snapshot, the baseline, what the baseline is just a snapshot that you take at a particular moment. Usually you do it at the beginning of the project. But then if you have changes, then to your, let's say that you have, when you start the project, your plan, your timeline was to complete the project in 3 months. But then throughout the project, then you realize that there was some added scope to the project. So therefore, you had to extend your timeline by 15 days, let's say that. So that means that, and at the beginning of the project, you baseline your project, right? So, but once those changes to the added scope and the extended timeline happen were approved, then you have to re-baseline your project because the old baseline is no longer current, So you have to re-baseline so you can always compare your actuals towards that that baseline that you have at that particular moment. So it's actually current. But the plan value is pretty much once you're done with your planning and you estimate the timeline, you estimate that this is going to cost, and you also have your plan value for your budget. So then you compare, what your actuals against that plan value that you have. So that's kind of what you do. But the baseline is just that; it's just a snapshot that you take of the project at the beginning, and then if there are relevant changes, then you have to rebaseline. If I'm not mistaken, Microsoft Project, for example, allows you to do up to 11 baselines, or to 11 times.
Yeah, 11 baselines.
Huh?
11 baselines.
Yeah, but I've never seen anybody doing that.
Because in Clarity, each baseline is basically a whole new project. So every time you open a project with 6 baselines, you're opening up that project 6 different times.
Yeah.
So that's why sometimes the project will take forever to open.
Yeah, Clarity is a little bit different. Yeah. Well, that's very cumbersome. So.
Like, I love Clarity. It does a lot. And we just don't use the tool right.
No. We don't. We don't at all. And that's how. But Workbench. I think it's horrible to keep to track your project. I think Workbench is horrendous.
Yeah, because it's free.
Yeah.
That's why we have it. If now we have to pay for a Microsoft project for everybody that wants.
Yeah, and they don't want to spend money on that because they don't have any.
We have money. We just waste it on stupid stuff.
On stupid stuff. Yep.
We're still making money today. Today we had the all IT meeting. So we met the new guy. We met we saw Latov Perlo, which is the CEO of Celebrity.
Okay.
Just a presentation of how the company's doing, and everybody meet Mike.
But not the contractors, right? Just employees. Yeah.
That's another thing that sucks, but I'm like,
I don't understand that. I mean, why? Yeah, they segregate. They even didn't want to. I heard before I left that if you were a contractor, you had to change your signature, not to say Royal Caribbean, but to say something else.
I see that a lot now, and I'm like, really?
Yeah. So that came from the higher ups, so, which is ridiculous, But anyways,
because a contractor at Royal Caribbean, you do the same thing as if you were an employee.
Yeah.
Because it's not like other places that contractors like, no, you're just working on one particular thing.
Yeah. Yeah, really bad with that. Anyways, so the next input is the cost forecast, which is pretty much the same as scheduled. Your the cost forecast is derived from the progress against the cost baseline and computed to estimate your ETC, estimate to complete. And this is shown as a variance. Your estimate of completion. So Then your validated changes and your work performance information. This is just raw data that is not put into context. When you have it in into a context, it's work performance data. No, I'm sorry. This is work performance data is raw data. Work performance information is when you put the information into a context, and that's what's going to help you in the decision making process. That's how it works. So then your enterprise environmental factors, any stakeholder risk tolerances, project management information system, organization work authorization systems, and then your organizational documentation or process assets, and any communication requirements, financial controls procedures, change control, risk control, process measurement database, lessons learned database. Next is how do we do it? What are the tools and techniques that we use? So the first one is expert judgment, expertise. The project management team will help you to interpret to understand and interpret information. Then you're going to be using analytical techniques to forecast any of the outcomes. You're going to be using some techniques like regression analysis, grouping methods, causal analysis. There's some other techniques like failure mode and effect analysis, FMEA, that I've seen for the most part in manufacturing settings. Reserve analysis, trend analysis, EVM, and variance analysis. Then project management information system. That'd be
Yes, señor, it kicked me off. You didn't notice me?
What's that?
It kicked me off like 3 minutes ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why I text you. I'm like, what happened? I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I was like, wait, what happened?
Wow, that's weird.
Huh?
Okay. No, I've never seen that happen. Anyways, so we
were at
where was I?
Validating changes, work performance information.
Okay. Then we have enterprise environmental factors. Any standards, risk tolerances. Then we have organizational documents or process assets like organizational communication requirements, financial control procedures, issue and defect management, change control, risk control, and process measurement. So the tools and techniques that we have, the first one is expert judgment, expertise. The team is going to help you to understand the information provided. Then, so you can determine the actions that are required. Then some analytical techniques, regression analysis, grouping methods, root cause analysis, forecasting methods, fault tree analysis, reserve analysis, failure mode and effect analysis, trend analysis, and so on. So your next tool and technique is the project management information system. Then that covers Microsoft Project, for example. Then you're going to be having a lot of meetings in regards to monitoring and controlling. And the outputs that you're going to get are the number one is a change request, because you're monitoring and controlling the performance. So in some cases, you're going to have change requests to expand your scope or reduce it or increase it, any quality requirements, any schedule or cost baselines. You're going to have some changes.
Mhm.
So that all of that is going to be done through change requests. So you might have some corrective actions, then you might have some preventive actions, and then you're going to have defect repair. And then you're going to, another output is going to be work performance reports. And you have your representation of the work performance information. This can be in a physical or electronic form that requires, and this is where you try to create awareness of the general decisions or actions. So an example of this will be a status report on your project. That's a work performance report. Then you have updates to the subsidiary plans. The scope management plan can be changed. The requirements management plan can be changed. Schedule management plan can be changed, and so on. So there might be some updates to those subsidiary plans. And then to some updates to the actual documentation per se, like this scheduler and cost forecast, issue log, and work performance report. So that's that for monitoring and controlling. And then the next process is perform integrated change control. So this is where we review those change requests that were made, that were an output of the previous process. So we approve changes and we manage changes to deliverables. This is where you review all the requests for changes and modifications, and you approve them or reject them based on the case. And this is basically a way to document changes that this is this process is going to allow you to have a holistic approach in regards to the changes that are going to be integrated to the project, which is going to help you to reduce project risk. I mean, you're going to evaluate the changes, and it's a way to have a holistic approach and not just a silo approach to those changes. So that's why you have this approach. So the inputs that we have for this process, the first one is the overall out. And then this covers some other stuff that is important. This is done from the beginning to end, the change control, performing integrated change control from the very beginning to the end of the project. This is where you any changes. This is basically when we say changes allowed, but it has to be controlled. Well, this is exactly what we do with change control. You review. You're managing the changes by either approving or reviewing, and it's not just you. It's going to be the change control board. It's going to be approving or reviewing the changes, and there should be a system on how to do these changes. So that's a way of doing it. It's a change control board that is going to review or reject. It's going to review, approve or deny or reject the changes, and that's something that needs to happen. So. The inputs to this process, the first one is the overall project management plan. Then we have work performance reports. the actual change requests. Then we have enterprise environmental factors.
I'm sorry, hey, Senor, you lost me. What page was it?
This is page 98.
Okay. That was one.
And then we have organization and process assets. So it's what we have. Then the tools and techniques that we use. The first one is expert judgment. Yeah, the stakeholders, part of the project management team, they might provide the expertise, and they might even be asked to be part of the change control board. So it comes from many places. This expertise can come from SMEs, from the actual PMO, even from external groups like professional and technical associations, consultants, etc. So it can come from different sources, both internal and external. So then we had meetings. We're gonna have meetings to review change control meetings. I think we have those at Royal every week. So that's what. Well, those are mostly not necessarily change control meetings. Those are release management meetings. What we have. So the change control meeting is when you review a change and accept it, and then you have change control tools. This is to facilitate configuration and change management. You might use some automated tools. There might be a software that can help with that. I don't recall at this moment what was used in at Royal. I think there was a software for that in place. Then we have the outputs. The number one output is going to be the approved change request. Once they're processed, they're reviewed, and some of them are going to be approved, and they have to be implemented. Then we have a change log, because you want to make sure that you document what are the changes that are occurring during the project. Then we have project management plan updates. Any of the subsidiary plans and any of the baselines might be changed as a result of this process. Then we have project documents updates. Some of the documentation might change as well. So that's something that needs to be taken into account.
Okay. So for the most part, this is how we do things in Royal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very straightforward. Mm-hmm. So then we have 4.4 and 4.5 done. We only have one process left in regards to one for closing. So now let's go to validate scope and control scope.
¿Qué página es eso?
Validate scope is 5.5. That's on page 5.5 is
133.
Yeah, correct.
Le gané el profesor.
Man, quicker. Validate scope. This is where we provide formal acceptance of the completed project deliverables. So this is going to bring some objectivity to the acceptance process and increases the chances of your final project to be accepted, by validating each deliverable. Basically, that's what you do here.
We don't need any questions on this.
Then
And I'm on
It's fine, no.
Ew, your feet. You're feeling bad.
I wash my feet.
You didn't wash them.
Yeah.
We're gonna work. Get these out.
I'm sorry.
Your shirt,
No problem.
they only have extra large and large. You're extra large, right?
Extra large.
Yeah, black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on. What's it called? They only have that left, so I have to pay $12 because my friend won't buy it, but she wants a small one.
Okay.
What?
Sierra is a small, not an extra large, not a large.
You get 2 shirts. Doesn't matter what size they are.
Yeah, well, might want to get
They
another
only
one.
have large and extra large. So
Uh-huh.
why is she gonna get an extra one for?
What?
They don't have nothing. I haven't.
Yeah.
Oh, they don't have small. Okay, that's okay. Sorry.
Sorry. I'm surrounded by idiots.
No problem.
You're nasty.
A little bit.
Honey.
Mom needs a charger and a chocolate chip Subway cookie.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, Commissioner.
Yes, sir. Okay.
All right. So we see, this is we review the verified deliverables with the customer or the sponsor, make sure that they're completed satisfactorily,
Okay, I accidentally went
It
over
says-
there.
and then
What is that?
and then we
Oh, it sucks.
what we do here. It might sound similar to what we do with control quality, but there's a difference, and is with it's basically that when you're controlling your quality, you're concerned with how accurate, how correct is the deliverable that you're getting, right, and meeting the quality requirements. But here is basically the most important factor is the accepting the deliverables. I mean, you're not so much concerned about the quality or how meeting the quality requirements, is accepting the deliverables. So that's your driving factor in this process. So the inputs that we have is or are, the first input is the project management plan. Then we have the requirements documentation. Then we have the requirements traceability matrix. Then we have verified deliverables. We also have work performance data. Which is, remember that is data, is raw data that is not put into a context, and basically at this particular moment won't help you to make any decisions, but it's just raw data from the number of validation cycles that you do for QA, for example, or the severity of the nonconformities and so on. How many nonconformities do you have? So it's just raw data that needs to be put into a context. Then the way that you validate your scope is the first technique is inspection. This is where you measure, you examine, you validate, and when you make sure that your deliverables are going to meet the requirements and the product acceptance criteria that was established at the beginning of the project. You might do audits, you do product reviews or walkthroughs. That's how you do your inspection, the different ways of doing it. Then you have group decision-making techniques. Remember, this is brainstorming, Delphi technique, and so on. So those are the group decision-making techniques. And the outputs that you get, the first one is the accepted deliverables. So if they meet the acceptance criteria and they are formally signed off and approved by the customer or sponsor, so that's the first output that we have in validating the scope. The second one is change requests. So there might be some deliverables that were not accepted. This has to be documented, and they're gonna be there has to be a change request in the form of a document, that will allow that defect, because most likely these deliverables were not accepted because of a defect. So has to be a change request for that defect repair. So it is assigned to someone and they can work on that.
So when you're validating, sorry,
no, go ahead.
when they're validating scope, it's basically like doing UAT sign off. When you're accepting that the project was done, delivered correctly.
Yes.
Is that just the PMI's way of saying it?
It is. Yeah, it could overlap to if you want to overlap it to SDLC. Remember that the PMI is not industry specific, right? So it's not just for IT, meaning that it's not just for IT. So the way PMI, the way they do it, if you want to overlap what the PMI is saying in regards to validating the scope, yes, it's you want to overlap the PMI validating the scope to SDLC, correct? Yes, that will be part of UAT, because basically this is being done with the stakeholders being your customers in this case, and they're conducting UAT, and that's when that validation process can actually happen to see what was the functionality that was promised with the project is actually there. So that's kind of what you do.
Okay.
In that regard, but yeah.
I just try to put it into perspective into what I know.
Yeah, no, that's good. But you're absolutely right. Okay.
So saying construction is when I see the house is completely done, right? Okay.
But then, but you don't have to do it at the end, though. I don't want you to think that it has to be done at the end. You can do this as these can be done
on milestone.
This is monitor and control, and the thing is that this can be done at the beginning of the project. That's the difference. Don't look at it as a sequence. The monitoring and controlling happens throughout the project, from inception to deployment.
So validating a scope can also be like sprints that you do it on every 3 weeks,
or you could do it
or whatever schedule.
Not so much about the sprint. Look at it that I can do it at the beginning of the project. I can do it 2 weeks after the project started, or 2 months after the project started. I can do it at any time. Monitoring and controlling. Look at it like a big. That's one of the reasons of why a lot of people tend to think of the process groups as phases. They're not phases. And one of the main reasons for that is that monitoring and controlling happens. It's usually represented like a big circle around your project, because it happens at all times. So it covers all of the different phases of the project. So you don't have to do it at the end. You don't have to wait it. Of course, UAT is part of validating the scope, but I can validate the scope at the very beginning of the project. I can do that when the work started. So to see how am I doing, I can I can do a walkthrough. I can do a project audit. I can actually make sure that what it was supposed to be delivered, and it's been delivered. That can happen at any time. Doesn't necessarily have to happen at the end of the project. Got it?
Got it.
So then you get some change requests. You get your work performance information. This is information into context. Of course, it's not a report. Yeah, it's not a report, but you have information about project progress, and then you have the deliverables that started, what is the progress, and the ones that have been finished, and the ones that have been accepted. Then you also have project document updates. Some of the documentation might need to be updated. So you have that. Um, so once you validate your scope, the next step is to control it. So here you're just monitoring what is the status of your project scope, and then you manage and then you have to manage any changes to the scope baseline. So you have to it allows the key benefit, the main benefit that you get out of this is that it allows your scope baseline to be maintained throughout the project. If it needs to be adjusted, then you are that's what you do. So it makes sure that all the requested changes and recommended corrective actions are processed through the change control process, and then this control is going to allow you to manage the changes when they occur, and they're integrated with any other control processes. So if there's any changes, if you don't control the changes to your product or project scope, that's something that is called scope creep. It's something that we don't want to happen. That's just uncontrolled expansion to your project scope. That's scope creep. Something that can get you. Usually, scope creep is going to have an impact on your timeline. It's going to have an impact on your cost, and it's going to have an impact on your resources. So you gotta the scope has to be narrowed down, and you gotta keep it under control. Change is always going to happen, but you have to control it. That's the main point here. So the inputs that we have, the first one is the project management plan, the overall approach. Then we have the requirements documentation. The requirements got to be precise and measurable and testable. Then we have a requirements traceability matrix. Then we have a work performance data. We have some of the documentation, any in the form of organizational process assets with monitoring and reporting methods and templates, and any guidelines or procedures for informal scope control related policies that might exist within the organization. Then the tools and techniques for controlling the scope, variance analysis. This is where we determine the cause and degree of the differences between the baseline and the actual performance. Then that's the technique that we use. We measure the actuals against the baseline, and then we are going to have the output that we're going to have is work performance information. This is information within a context that will help you to make decisions, and it's going to provide different information in different categories, including the scope variances and why, what is the impact to the schedule and cost, and the forecast to future scope performance. Then you have change requests. This can come after you do your analysis for your scope. There might be changes to the scope baseline, and this can come in the form of corrective actions, defect repairs, and enhancement requests, repairs. Then some of the documentation might need to be updated, including your scope baseline. I mean, you might have to re-baseline, and then other baseline updates as well, like cost baseline. Usually that's the cost and schedule. Those are the most important ones. Then some of the documentation might need to be updated, and some of the organization and process assets as well now need to be updated. Corrective action chosen, why, other lessons learned, and the causes of variances. So we have a lot of documentation there. Okay, so We have done 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we have done 4 processes. Then the next one is control schedule. So we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 9 processes
Okay.
left. And these are rather quick. So it's mostly control we have. So the next one is going to be control schedule. And yeah, we can do that. We're almost there.
So today we did. What can we say? We did 4.4.
4.5.
4.4, which is
Monitor and control work. Project work.
project work, and then 5.
No, we did 4.5, 4.4, 4.5,
5.5.
and then yeah, we did 4.4 monitor and control project work. Then we did 4.5 perform integrated change control. Then we did 5.5 validate scope, and then we did 5.6 control scope.
Control scope. Okay.
All right.
Okay, mano.
All right. So I think if we do the next one 2 hours, we can actually finish all the processes.
Okay.
All right. That should be the case, and then work on the things that you
They are missing. I need to
that
practice.
that you need to work on, and then we'll work on the strategy for the test too.
Okay.
That's the once we finish the knowledge areas, then we'll cover that. So
All right, sir.
that's well. All right.
All right, mano. Have a good one.
All right, man. Good night. Thank you very much.
Well, no, thank you.
All righty.
Bye bye.